also for Julia, who isn't able to be here for sure. All right, so anytime you're in a sort of human services front-facing job, it's exhausting, right? Like, I even remember working the customer service desk when I was in college at a department store, and that could be tiring, right? When you're doing it as intensely as the rest of y'all are right now, it gets even more exhausting, right? And it can be really, really important to take some time for yourself to make sure that you're doing some things to de-stress. Because again, not only are you all in the field working in these positions, but you all have a whole bunch of other things too, right? I know some of you work, some of you play sports, some of you are in 50 clubs on campus, right? But over and above, you also have all your other coursework. So for that reason, I wanted to spend some time today just focusing on some basic self-care skills that are empirically supported from psychology. So things that can help you, and some of these are things that you can do anywhere, anytime. And so one of my favorite is diaphragmatic breathing. So if you've ever taken like public speaking or singing lessons, you may have learned about this already. So the diaphragm is a muscle, and I'll kind of stand up so the Zoom can see me. It's a muscle right here, sort of the top of your stomach. And it is the muscle that controls basically how your lungs take air in and out. And so when we're laying down or sleeping, the diaphragmatic breathing from there in particular, focusing there, happens naturally. But sometimes, particularly if we get stressed, nervous, anxious in our day-to-day lives, we tend to breathe more from our chest. So like we're still using the diaphragm, but we're not breathing into it. So it tends to be, I have a hard time doing it. Let me try. This tends to be more like this, right? And so like that can just confound. You're not getting enough oxygen. Oh, the other place you would have done this is if you've ever done yoga. This is used in yoga quite a bit too, although they call it different things. And so how do you figure out how to breathe from here? The best way is to put your hand right there on your diaphragm. So it's like under your rib cage, but above your stomach, essentially. And then if you want to close your eyes, people on Zoom, people in person, you can. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's also fine. But when you breathe in, imagine filling a balloon inside your abdomen. So everybody take a breath in and imagine that. And then breathe out and imagine the balloon collapsing. And so it is a way to think about really breathing deeply, feeling your breath, getting that in there. And just the act of doing these diaphragmatic breaths, of stopping and taking slow breaths, can lower your blood pressure in the moment. In fact, I often do this because I have high blood pressure when I go into the doctor. And it also can help you feel more relaxed, feel less stressed. And it's something you can do anywhere, right? You know, if you're in an office setting and you do this, no one needs to even know you're doing this. So, all right, I am going to walk you through this as I do the instructions. You can see like instruction number 2 is giant paragraph. Breathe normally as I read the instructions. I don't want anyone to pass out. So you're going to place your hand back on your abdomen right beneath your rib cage, and then you'll be inhaling slowly and deeply through your nose if possible. If you're stuffed up, you can breathe through your mouth and into the bottom of your lungs. And that just means to breathe as deeply as possible. And again, as I read these, just keep breathing normally, but you might start to feel your hand rise and fall as you're breathing. Your chest should move only slightly while your abdomen expands. And when you've taken a full breath, we're going to pause for a moment and then exhale slowly again, either through your nose or your mouth. It really doesn't matter. The act of breathing slowly is what helps. And as you exhale again, imagine that balloon deflating, allow your whole body to let go. And so they say to do 5 breaths. You can do as many as you want. And I am going to walk you all through this measured breaths version, because this is very common thing to do in therapy. And so we're gonna inhale for 5, and it won't be a long 5. I don't want anyone passing out. Pause for a second and then exhale for 5. Sometimes you'll see this as box breathing, where they encourage you to do like inhale for 3 or 4, wait for 3 or 4, exhale for 3 or 4, wait for 3 or 4. That works too, but this is the way I was trained. So I'm going to teach you guys this way. All right, so we're going to inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, pause, exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Last one. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. And when you do this on your own, you can do the counting at your own pace. But this is again a really nice way. You're in the moment, you find yourself needing to calm down, you are laying in bed and you can't get to sleep. This can be really helpful to just give you that minute to start to relax. It's also something that will be incorporated into a lot of other self-care techniques we're going to talk about. So for example, a lot of mindfulness meditation is based off the breath, and progressive muscle relaxation includes the breath in it. Hannah says that was very calming. Good, yeah. And one thing I should have said beforehand is if when you're doing this, especially if you're not used to doing it, you start to feel lightheaded, just stop and breathe normally. Because some people will be so focused, they like think they're breathing, but they're not. It's weird to say, but like they're just counting, right? Instead of actually taking the air in. So make sure that you do that as well. I have a couple different versions on here of the progressive muscle relaxation script. They're not that different, but you know, some people will find that they like one better than the other. Again, this is something that can be really helpful if you're very stressed, very anxious, and again, laying in bed at night, trying to help yourself go to sleep. This is something that can be really helpful. So I am going to try to put on my therapist voice and do this. So it sounds a little different than my normal voice. And everybody, again, if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can, but you don't have to. But you know, make sure you're in a comfortable position. Folks who are on Zoom, you can either sit or lie, whatever feels the most comfortable. And again, shut your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. Begin by taking a deep breath and noticing the feeling of air filling your lungs. Hold your breath for a second. Release the breath slowly and let the tension leave your body. Take in another deep breath and hold it. Again, slowly release the air. Even slower now, take another breath. Fill your lungs and hold the air. Slowly release the breath and imagine the feeling of tension leaving your body. Now move your attention to your feet. Begin to tense your feet by curling your toes down and the arch of your foot. Hold on to the tension and notice what it feels like. Release the tension in your foot. Notice the new feeling of relaxation. Next, begin to focus on your lower legs. Tense the muscles in your calves. Hold them tightly and pay attention to that feeling of tension. Release the tension from your lower legs. Again, notice the feeling of relaxation. Remember to continue taking deep breaths. Next, tense the muscles of your upper leg and pelvis. You can do this by tightly squeezing your thighs together. Make sure you feel tenseness without going to the point of strain. And release. Feel the tension leaving your muscles. Begin to tense your stomach and chest. You can do this by sucking your stomach in. Squeeze harder and hold the tension. Release the tension. Allow your body to go limp. Let yourself notice the feeling of relaxation. Continue taking deep breaths. Breathe in slowly, noticing the air fill your lungs and hold it. Release the air slowly. Feel it leaving your lungs. Next, tense the muscles in your back by bringing your shoulders together behind you. Hold them tightly. Tense as hard as you can without straining, and keep holding. Release the tension from your back. Feel the tension slowly leaving your body and the new feeling of relaxation. Notice how your body feels when you allow it to relax. Tense your arms all the way from your hands to your shoulders. Make a fist and squeeze all the way up and hold it. Release the tension from your arms and shoulders. Notice the feeling of relaxation in your fingers, hands, arms, and shoulders. Notice how your arms feel limp and at ease. Move up to your neck and your head. Tense your face and your neck by distorting the muscles around your eyes and mouth. Release the tension. Again, notice the new feeling of relaxation. Finally, tense your entire body. Tense your feet, legs, stomach, chest, arms, head, and neck. Tense harder without straining. Hold the tension. Now release. Allow your whole body to feel limp. Pay attention to this feeling of relaxation and how it is different from the feeling of tension. Begin to wake your body up by slowly moving your muscles. Adjust your arms and legs. Stretch your muscles and open your eyes if you had them closed when you're ready. Alrighty, reactions to that one. Is this something anybody has tried before? Did it seem actually helpful? Was it hard for anybody? Yeah, definitely. And obviously, mindfulness meditation is really helpful too. I realize I don't have a script for that, but if you haven't tried mindfulness meditation before, if you just sort of search it on YouTube, or there are tons of podcasts now that are mindfulness meditation and apps. I use an app called Smiling Mind. It's out of Australia, so all the people doing the meditations have accents, which is kind of fun. But yeah, so that's another great thing. But yeah, this is something that you feel the noticeable change. This is incorporated into a lot of different treatments for anxiety, for example. And we even use something like this sometimes in eating disorder therapy to try to help people reconnect with their bodies. Hannah says there's a new Headspace series on Netflix. And it reminded me of the episode designed to help with anxiety. Oh, cool. So there's meditations on Netflix now too. That's awesome. And Jasmine said, I've learned this as a coping mechanism for anxiety, and it helps so much because I naturally stay tense anyway. Yeah, and I think a lot of us do, particularly very high achieving folks, like people who would choose to do an internship, right? Um, so I think having these tools in your tool belt for self-care can be really important. All right, the next set that we're going to talk about comes from a specific type of therapy called dialectical behavioral therapy. And this is a therapy that was originally designed for people with borderline personality disorder. So these are the folks who might self-harm, have a hard time with identity, often have a lot of comorbidities like PTSD, eating disorders, bipolar disorder. And so I actually have the entire book of skills related to this, and there are some mindfulness meditation as well as other skills posted here in this big PDF called DBT Skills Training and Handouts and Worksheets, so that can be really helpful. But the ones I wanted to focus in on today, because again, I'm thinking about stress and helping cope with that, are the distress tolerance module. And to just give you all again some clarification and background, when you do DBT, you are using a multimodal type of therapy. So each client meets individually with a therapist each week to work on their own individual issues. Often you're focusing in on their self-harm and trying to find ways to prevent it. And then each week, each client also attends a DBT skills group. It's very different from other groups I've participated in. It's almost like taking a class where you learn these skills, as opposed to a lot of groups are just talking about your feelings, decompressing, things like that. And this is the module from that on distress tolerance. And so the idea here is, what can you do in the moment when everything feels overwhelming, when you just feel really stressed out, maybe something horrible has happened and you've just discovered, someone close to you has passed or something horrible happened at work. And so there's a whole series of skills here we'll look at. The first one is the STOP skill. DBT loves their acronyms, so just heads up, there's going to be lots of those. So, but it's, when you're in the moment and something feels overwhelming, use the STOP skill. So stop. First, just don't react right away. Stop, freeze. Your emotions may make you try to act without thinking, try to stay in control. And then the T is take a step back, take a break, let go, take a deep breath. Again, try not to act impulsively. Observe, so notice what's going on inside and outside you. What are your thoughts and feelings? What are other people saying or doing? So like, is your reaction on par with what other people are experiencing? And then proceeding mindfully, acting with awareness, considering your thoughts and feelings, the situation, and other people's thoughts and feelings. One of the things in DBT they talk about is this idea of wise mind, that sort of we have like a rational part of our mind and an emotional part of your mind, and wise mind is the intersection of the two. And so you can make pros and cons lists for things, but there are other things you can do pretty quickly in the moment to start to change when you're really overwhelmed. And so some of these are focused on the fact that, again, like people with borderline PD tend to go to self-harm, cutting themselves, burning themselves, things along those lines. And so these are very intensive, but if you are really in a funk, these can help you regardless of sort of what your normal reaction is. So again, another acronym, TIP. But if you're feeling really overwhelmed, tip the temperature of your face with cold water. So put your face in a bowl of cold water or hold like a cold pack on your eyes and cheeks. And the idea is to just kind of help yourself snap out of it. Engaging in intense exercise, running, walking fast, things like that. And then there's a couple different P's. I guess they could have made it 2 P's. But the same type of breathing we just did, paced breathing, and paired muscle relaxation, which we just did. All right, and then sometimes they talk about you just need to distract yourself, right? Sometimes you're just overwhelmed. Something happened on your internship, something happened with your significant other, or a roommate, or a friend, or a teammate, a family member, and you just need to get your mind off of it. So these are some nice skills for that. And again, we've got another acronym, Wise Mind accepts. So the acronym is accepts. So you do it with activities. So one of them is just getting a task done. That can feel really rewarding. Playing video games, go walk, playing sports. Wow, this is a little dated. Listen to your iPod, listen to Pandora or Spotify. You name your favorite app here. Play cards, read magazines, books, comics, things along those lines. And then contributing, helping someone else out, essentially. Just call or text somebody to say hi, do something thoughtful for somebody else. Comparisons, and this one's so interesting to me. This is just a sidebar. I study social comparison. It's one of the things I look at, and it actually can be helpful. And this is a really interesting way to look at it. So comparing how you're feeling now to a time when you felt very differently. Thinking about people coping the same or more or less well as you. Comparing yourselves to those less fortunate. And again, this wouldn't work for everybody, especially like reading about others suffering, but the idea is to sort of give yourself perspective. That even though what you're going through right now might feel completely overwhelming, there are other people who have survived things that could be much worse. Different emotions, we cheat a little there for the E, but reading something emotional or watching emotional TV shows or listening to emotional music. One of my favorite ideas that they have on here is like, if you're feeling really down, like go to a store, like go to the Dollar Tree and read the funny cards, right? Something simple, something free. Pushing it away. Sometimes you just need to leave it be, right? Obviously, repression isn't the best coping mechanism if you use it for everything, but there are times where you're just not ready to think about something, right? And so putting it in sort of an imaginary box or imaginary shelf can be really helpful until you're ready to cope with it. Other thoughts, so counting things in your environment, repeating words to a song in your mind, doing puzzles, something else that engages your brain, and then other sensations. So taking like a stress ball or a rubber ball, squeezing it really hard, listening to very loud music, holding the ice in your hand in particular, again, for people who self-harm, can be something that elicits the same sort of feelings of discomfort without actually harming yourself. Going out in the rain or snow, or taking a cold or hot shower. Then they talk about ways to self-soothe and using the 5 senses. So various things you could do with vision. Buy one beautiful flower and put it in your room. Go people watching or window shopping. You know, we have lots of great places to do that. The ocean front, things like that. Go downtown to the Chrysler Museum. It's free. Look at the art. Sit in the lobby of a beautiful old hotel, looking at nature around you. Walk in a park or a scenic height. There's some research, and I'm not going to remember the exact study, but essentially, if you walk near water without like having your phone in your hand or anything like that for just 20 minutes, it can like really calm you down. Just really interesting. In terms of hearing, again, a little dated, burn a CD or make an iPod mix. Ooh, early 2000s. Okay. But listening to music you like, paying attention to the sounds of nature or the sounds of the city, whichever is more soothing to you. With smell, using your favorite scent, whether that is some sort of body wash, cologne, make something that smells good like cookies or popcorn. A taste, eating a favorite food, drinking a hot soothing drink, eating favorite childhood foods. So it's really interesting. One of my roommates in grad school, she was like very health conscious, but if she'd had a horrible day, she would come home and make her mom's mac and cheese recipe, which was like one of the like fattiest things. But obviously she could afford it. It's fine. It's not a like bad food. But even for someone who like normally was very strict about her diet, like that's a normal way to cope, right? Chewing gum, really taste the food you eat, eating mindfully. There's an exercise I've done with clients before where you take a raisin and you take about 10 minutes to eat the raisin, where you use all 5 of your senses, where you really look at the raisin, feel the raisin, hold it up by your ear and listen to it, and then put it in your mouth. I mean, obviously it doesn't need to be that extreme, but like we often just sort of shovel food in, right? And just like enjoying the sensation. And then touch, taking a long bath or shower, petting an animal. There again are studies showing that this not only helps you feel better, but reduces blood pressure, things like that. Running your hand among something that feels really good, hugging somebody, things like that. And then again, another acronym, improve. They just love their acronyms. But with imagery, so again, some of the things we've already talked about, but imagining very relaxing scenes on the meditations I do, one of the things I ask you to do is think of a place where you were like truly happy and calm. And I think of like the balcony of my hotel room on my honeymoon, right? Things like that. Finding meaning, making lemonade out of lemons. When we discussed this skill in the group, when I was doing DBT, my supervisor brought in this little pin that had been made by women in, I'm forgetting which country in Africa, but out of bullet casings. So it was like literally taking something violent and turning it into art. And then, prayer for some folks. But even if you are not religious, something like meditation can tap into something similar. Relaxing actions, the things we just talked about, deep breathing, massaging your neck and scalp, doing yoga, focusing on one thing in the moment, what we just talked about in terms of, taking things slowly. One of the things I've heard before is make a cup of coffee or tea and just focus on that. Like, I don't know about y'all, but like when I'm using my Keurig, I'm usually like on my phone, but also helping my daughter, but also talking to my husband. So just focusing in on that. Give yourself a brief vacation. Could just be like get in bed and put the covers over your head for a while. Turn off your phone for, maybe not a day, but an hour. Just go sit outside. And then encouragement, cheerleading yourself or just telling yourself things like, this sucks right now, but I can stand it. They talk a lot about radical acceptance and realizing sometimes things are going to suck, and sort of figuring out how to accept that. So there's a lot of stuff related to that. And there's stuff about mindfulness. And there are ways that you can kind of implement these skills. So those are those types of worksheets. So again, I think that these are really great for anybody. Obviously, some of them are more extreme for people who might self-harm, but they're things that can be really helpful in the moment. And again, these are posted as well. So anyone have any questions about anything? Comments? Alrighty. So what I'll do is I'll probably go back to my office right now and make that Google sheet and send it to y'all, and you can sign up for what day you want to lead discussion the second half of the semester. And then, yeah, everyone have a great spring break and take care of yourselves. And then I will see you 2 weeks from today.